Welcome. Much love. We're going to be talking about good stuff today. We already got some good conversations rolling, so we're going to start out with those conversations into it. So we're doing a true raw style lunch, so we're eating totally raw. Welcome, Rex.
Hello, how's it going today?
Do you want
Amazing.
orange juice or strawberry pineapple?
Strawberry pineapple? I was doing some tattoo work
Oh,
right
cool.
before you came up, so
You got a little heart there.
yeah, I had
Yeah.
tattooed. I had this heart tattooed when I got the feather on my hand,
Ah,
and the hand is a really weird place
yeah.
for tattoo. It fades real easily and doesn't
Oh,
stick.
okay.
So I've actually tattooed it like 4 times already.
Hmm.
Last time I used some purple, and some of the purple stuck, just like a little bit
Ah.
there. So today I used pink, and I was kind of doing more work on my
Ah.
leg.
Huh. So I have a question for you. When we see the heart, when we think about being heart-centered and the concept of being heart-centered, what does that concept mean to you?
Oh, perfect. Well, the great way I like to say it is like a tree. The tree, it receives the nutrients from the earth and receives the nutrients from the sky. It is in the middle between Grandfather Sky's love and Mother Earth's love. And so to be heart-centered is to be that tree in between the two.
Yeah.
And so we are that love of Grandfather Sky coming down
Yeah.
into our heart, and we are that love coming from below. So all of our chakras come up into that, and all of our chakras come down into that.
Wait.
And so being heart-centered is just what we are.
Yeah. And
That's a good spot for it.
if
Yeah,
I
well-
were to say, like, if I were to ask you, can you give me an example of someone who's heart-centered? What example would you pick? Can you give me an example of maybe somebody who you considered very heart-centered person?
Kimberly is a very heart-centered person. When she makes food, she's got love in mind with it.
Aww.
She's a mother, and so she has that motherly love. She's a woman, so she has
Yeah.
this care and love in a whole nother way. She's worked on herself to balance out her chakras so she can be centered in her heart. And I believe she lives that way. She lives with her heart forward, and
Yeah.
she lives
Hmm.
being centered in her heart.
Yeah.
Not giving into fear of the lower, and not always
Yeah.
head off into the clouds. She's balanced. You know?
Huh. Yeah, I like that example. I mean, I think part of being heart-centered means like leading a life of service to others.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I'm a former K through 12 teacher, and I don't agree with a lot of what's going on in the education system. But ultimately, the people that work in the system, they're people that, they do give their lives on the path of service to others. I mean, we kind of need to learn how can we get some of these people out of the system to doing something more constructive, and teaching children in a more constructive manner. But for me, being heart-centered, part of being heart-centered, I'm a healer. I'm a former teacher. I'm a freedom activist and a leader of the freedom movement. And, part of what I believe is leading a path of service to others, And I think as a man, part of leading the path of service to others is showing courage. And when I say courage, I don't mean let's go kill people in Iraq or let's send money to Ukraine to fight a stupid war. What I mean is when something is not going right, or when truth needs to be spoken, that you are willing to speak the truth, that you have the courage to try and speak the truth. So I think for the men out there, men need to stand up and do what's right.
I couldn't agree more, Rex. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. I mean, there are costs associated with it. A lot of people They want to be comfortable. They don't want to risk anything. But ultimately, when we have a world where some of these doctor people want to control the world, and they want to say, I have to wear a mask to go to the grocery store, or I have to take a vaccine to travel. People need to speak up about it. It's not something we can just ignore. And I think one element of positive masculinity is having the courage to stand up and to do what's right. I also think, now I'm shifting a little bit to positive masculinity and the concept of positive masculinity, but another one is having a strong backbone. I think that men out there, they need to have a strong backbone, and they need to have the strength to stand up and
Not
do
just
what's
men.
right.
I think women. I think it goes both ways. That men and women need to have courage to stand in their divine sovereignty and what they really believe in. But a lot of people don't even know how they believe. They're easily led by others, so they've got to.
And I agree. I think women can show courage too. Like one of my favorite leaders of the freedom movement. Her name is Amanda Vollmer up in Canada. She's a lovely lady, and she has both the very strong divine masculine and very strong divine feminine frequencies. And she's not afraid of government. She's not afraid of media. She's not afraid of the medical profession. She went to the naturopathic college in medicine in Canada, and there was something stupid where she didn't get her license because she didn't want to buy into a bunch of annoying, stupid rules from the government. And she was one of these people who, when she went to college and in university, she asked the question, she just didn't read the required readings, but she went into the library and dug into all the amazing books and resources in the library that a lot of other doctors and a lot of other people didn't dig into. So I think, you're absolutely right. Women can also have the courage to stand up and do what's right. Ultimately, I think it's still men's job to be protectors and providers as well, and protectors of our rights and providers of freedom. And that's how I see myself. I see myself as a protector of rights and provider of freedom. And I'm not saying like it's an easy path to take, but I think all of us, we need to start standing up and doing what's right. We can't be afraid of speaking our truth. And because I think everybody's voice, if I desire to speak, my voice should have the opportunity to be heard. And I think that's one of the major issues over the past couple of years is we have censorship coming in from social media companies. We have censorship coming in from, the government, from doctors. And if somebody's not allowed to speak, that means that they are afraid, that they have fear of your argument. And to me, in a debate, if you have a better idea than I do, I want to hear it, and I want to sharpen my idea. I want to make sure that I have the chance to sharpen my argument, sharpen my idea. And when people are afraid of someone else's idea and don't allow them to speak, that's a sign that their argument is weaker than the other side. So when they say conspiracy theorists, when they could say misinformation, that's just a stupid label that they give something because they don't have a better argument. And
it proves their argument wrong or something.
It proves their argument wrong.
We need to shut that up because it says that what we're saying is not right when it's not right.
Yeah, I mean that's the same tactic that Donald Trump uses. When he's talking, he always gives, rather than giving a good argument to why he should be a good leader, he's always talking about why he's always giving someone a name like Little Marco or Lying Ted or whatever to, give them a nasty nickname in someone else's mind, rather than saying, why he has a better argument to lead. So I think we have to really look into that. And when people are listening to media, they need to be paying attention to when they hear the label misinformation, conspiracy theorist, a nasty nickname, because these are just slimy, nasty debate tactics that prove that that person has absolutely no place, projecting their idea. If they can't come up with a better idea, they shouldn't be in the debate. Like a debate is, I have my opportunity to present my ideas. David has his opportunity to present his ideas. Kim, you have your opportunity to present your ideas. That's what this is about.
And then we have a time to ask questions and talk about what the other's ideas are.
What do you think about me just mixing that in here? No?
What?
It's a shoyu stuff.
Yeah. Some if you want, but no.
No?
And I'd like to talk.
I'd like to have some separate if you want to put some in there. I don't want shows and stuff.
Okay.
I'd like to just briefly mention a couple more elements of positive masculinity. So we talked about courage. We talked about having a strong backbone. We talked about standing up for what's right. And I think there are just a couple elements. So I think positive masculinity is being a builder rather than a destroyer. So a lot of times, like in the toxic masculinity, in the war masculinity, we always see that men as destroyers, men as killers. And I think positive masculinity involves building a house, building a family, building a business, and like kind
building
of a heart,
or creating a garden, or putting something together, doing something, creating.
I completely agree with you.
And taking action.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if you either of you have any other ideas to share on this, but these are just my thoughts on this particular topic.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I enjoy some food too while we're here.
Yeah. And just for the audience, like whenever you're eating food, we always want to make sure that we bestow the best vibration on our food. So I always say, dear Divine Creator, please bestow the best vibration upon this food for me. Let it integrate in the best way possible. Let it do the highest possible good for my being. And then to thank the people who made it. So lovingly thanking, Kim for making the food. Were you involved in the food preparation at all?
Not today.
But just thanking David as well for, inviting me here over to his house.
Yeah, he's at the table.
So just putting that energy also of gratitude into the food. So that's something that we should always be, blessing our food, blessing our financial transactions. So when we go to a store, putting good energy into the money we circulate.
I like how Roberto says it. He says like, may this multiply.
May your money that you've given me multiply. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when they're just giving him change or something at the store, every time he says may it multiply in your life. This amount of money here, you have way more than that in your life.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and always being grateful to the source of your income too. To install the energy of gratitude to the source of your income. If you get your income from a job, if you get your income from a donation, if you get your income from an inheritance, to be grateful to your source of income. I think those are other very valuable things.
Like a shoyu sauce if you want that. Or
that's super powerful, because the more you're grateful for, the universe and everything out there brings you more to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So if you're grateful for the things like that you're saying, then the universe will bring you more of those things. You will see more of those things in your life. Grateful for the things like that.
And where, I don't know where this comes from, but someone said, I don't know who said this, but wherever your mind goes, energy flows.
It's true.
So if you're grateful for things, then that brings more great things for you to be grateful for.
Exactly.
If your mind goes to, I'm not happy about this, I'm not happy about that, that just brings more unhappiness. I think, the more we can show gratitude towards others, the better off we're going to be.
Yes.
And that's, I think over the past 2 years, this has been tough for some of us that are awake. For some of us that see what's going on, it's very easy to get in the vibration of anger, frustration.
It was for me at first, definitely. Yeah. But then, more recently, I've realized that everything really is divine and perfect. We needed a big shakeup to wake people up. And so on this path of awakening, this needed to happen. Because people, when everything's just status quo and, easy, then they don't question things, they're just going along. So we needed a really rude awakening, if you will, and it's all perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, and, I used to be a teacher, and, it's allowed me to see kind of how bad the education system is, and how much, I think I've mentioned this topic before, how much parents need to unschool their children. There's a lovely market a lovely little convenience store that has great energy, and the parents are teaching their kids practical skills already about how to run a business, how to run a store, how to hand out money, how to organize things, because not every skill, and I love reading books, I'm an avid reader. At the same time, there are other skills people have to learn, how to organize things, how to handle money, all these things, and a child, doing a few hours at the store can learn some of those skills and learn some of the skills that they need, how to become a successful business owner, because
it's not made in school like that.
Yeah,
anymore.
You can go to the Harvard School of Business, but if your professor has never built a business and you're listening to them talk about a business that they've actually never run,
you're not learning much.
You're not. Well, maybe there's some valuable things you can learn in business school. I think one of the skills you can learn in business school is about leadership, if it's taught properly. I used to listen. I'm still very interested in history, and I was interested in the Civil War as a kid. And one of the YouTube channels I listened to was from the University of Virginia about the Civil War and lessons on leadership at the Battle of Gettysburg, because it's a very interesting thing to learn. And that's one of the few things we can learn in history is about leadership. Whether a person receives credit for their accomplishments, whether a person gets the proper mentorship. Because, in being a leader, you have to be able to mentor your team. Yeah. And so if you as a supervisor, you don't give your people enough mentoring, they're not going to be as effective. So, I was listening to that, and, Robert E. Lee didn't give enough mentorship to one of his generals, and that's one reason why the Confederates lost the Battle of Gettysburg. So we can apply these things. I mean, I don't, endorse studying this, but I think, we can, learn from history, and we can learn lessons about leadership. And the other thing that I'm grateful for in my background in history is how to dig into things, because a real historian knows how to dig into things. And that's part of the reason I've been able to dig into terrain theory and into things.
Did you research much about, or come across in your studies of history, anything about Tartaria?
That was never taught for some reason. I don't know why. Like, there was always just this kingdom of Poland they talked about, but there was never something people talked about very, very much.
It's coming up all the time now. If you look on, I don't know if you're much on social, not on TikTok. If you look up Tartaria and the mud floods.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of information.
Lost hidden history.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the history of World War II, and what I've heard is part of the reason they had World War II was to destroy a lot of old world culture in Eastern Europe. Because if you ever go to a city that wasn't destroyed in Eastern Europe, like Prague, it's a beautiful city. You know, it has like magic and a lot of power in the city. And yeah, my part of what I've heard was World War II was partly to destroy, you know, yes, these areas, you know, like in the former Russia and Austria-Hungary, that kind of had this kind of culture.
It was Tartaria.
And stuff. So
from everything that I've seen. So.
Yeah, because they basically, you go to, if you've ever been to Berlin, and I went to Berlin in, I think it was like 2005, and they had all these ugly communist buildings, you know, like that's what communists like to do. It's like they like to destroy beautiful architecture and put in its place ugly, you know, architecture with no aesthetics at all. That's the same thing the communists did when they took over Saigon after the fall of Saigon. You know, after the Vietnam War, is they took down all the beautiful French architecture and they installed ugly communist buildings. So that's why Saigon's
what communists are you referring to?
Like the communists, you know, the red communists from China and Vietnam.
I have a feeling, and I haven't studied this enough, but it seems to me that the United States, in particular, has really pushed this story of China being the evil, you know, side, when from what I've seen, it's the United States, not, you know, so I haven't been to China personally, so I can't say, you know, I have you know, until I have an experience for myself, I really can't make a judgment.
Yeah.
But I feel like that there has been a big push.
Grab as much as you want,
yeah,
or else I'm going to eat them all.
Yeah, take as many as you want.
Yeah, take them all if you want, or else I will.
Okay. Here, honey.
Yeah, well, actually, China has what's called social credit system. So what that means is that if you, for example,
you've been there?
I haven't been there, but I've had a lot of Chinese students.
Okay.
And when you ask a Chinese student, and you ask a Chinese person about politics, they never have an opinion. And the reason they don't have an opinion is their opinion isn't allowed to be expressed in China. There's censorship of the internet. You need to have a VPN in order to get around it. So I had a former student that I taught during the summer program, and she was smart. She was like one of the people that could actually think about things. Mm-hmm. And she was smart. She had a VPN so that she could actually, you know, look at real content. So there's a lot of control in China. I'm not saying the U.S. is free, but you know, there is a lot of control in China. And part of the reason they want to take down the West is they don't want any, like, freedom at all.
I'm not sure. Is it China or is it Klaus Schwab?
I mean, all this stuff is interconnected, but they kind of want to take away this former culture of the West, you know, and this idea, this illusion of the freedom that people have, and they just want to make it all just completely controlled from the top. And that's what, and that's part of the problem, is that people haven't actually studied communism. They haven't experienced it, and they don't know what communism actually is, because they never, before COVID, they had never actually experienced what communism was in their lives. They had only heard about it, but, you know, they had only heard about it on the context of, like, the Vietnam War. But a lot of people, they haven't studied what happened in the Ukraine during you know, like the 1920s and stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of the kulaks, but they were basically a group of rich peasants, and Stalin wanted to collectivize farms. So basically all the rich kulaks were basically shipped off to Siberia and starved, because what they were good at was, the kulaks understood how to farm better than the others, so they acquired more property. So instead of building a market economy, what they decided to do was just to take them off and collectivize farms, and it actually created a lot of starvation because they were less efficient. So, you know, and they didn't want anybody to have any power. They wanted all the power to be vested in the states, and they didn't want to have any culture of small business, small entrepreneurship. They did not want any decentralization, so they wanted centralized control of everything.
That sounds like that's been some people's plan for a long time.
Yeah. That's what we're seeing now. We're seeing more centralization, or the elites, the so-called elites. I don't even want to call them elites because they're pathetic. But
the parasites.
The parasites. Yeah, let's call them the parasites, or
the blood suckers.
that might even be an insult to parasites to call them parasites.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah. Anyway. Anyway, they want more centralized control. That's what they want. They want to say, let's have a central bank digital currency where you only have the money for so long. If you don't spend it, you lose it. And if you don't spend it at our approved store, you lose it. That's the kind of thing they want to impose. If you don't take a pharmaceutical drug,
you don't have access to your money.
You don't have access to your money.
You
can't go to the store. That's what this past couple of years has really shown, and hopefully some people out there can show some more courage and start doing something about this, rather than just sitting and waiting for some hero to bail them out.
It seems to be happening all over the world. France has been protesting for months, over a month, I think. And then Hungary is protesting. There's a bunch of different countries around the world that are protesting what has happened in the last few years. What has happened in the last few years has really opened up a lot of people to the control system.
Yeah.
And really opened up a lot of people to seeing that we aren't free and we need our freedoms. And they're like, they destroyed the BlackRock headquarters in France. And they dragged it, they went to some of the leaders' houses and dragged them out. And France, I guess, is good at that. I guess they do that every certain amount of years. They just stand up, they say, I don't want no more, and then they go and take care of it. They handle it with the people. Millions and millions of people in the streets saying, we're not putting up with it. The U.S. isn't quite like that. Canada tried to do that. And the U.S. has already put on the illegal to protest and illegal to, able to just lock you up for anything, for any reason. They don't need to tell you the reason. There's certain laws that they set into play that make it so that it's not possible.
Don't kid yourself about this, though, because they have had problems in France as well. I went to a ceremony and I met a girl from France who had not been allowed to the grocery store in France because she hadn't taken the jab. And so you ask yourself, is that ethical that someone like her can't go to the grocery store?
Doesn't get access to food. That's a human right.
There should be a human right. There should be discrimination based on this. That's discrimination. That's not okay.
We were kicked out of the grocery store a few times, but it wasn't the same kind of control. We just didn't comply.
Yeah.
We didn't want to comply.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of some places. I've been kicked out of a used bookstore for not wearing a mask and had a SWAT team sent after me in Arizona. So like, yeah, let's talk about the U.S.
It's like, all right, I won't buy books in. You won't get my business in if you're gonna treat me like that.
Yeah, I mean,
trample my rights, then you don't get my business.
Why can't I just walk into a used bookstore without a mask? Why? How is it justified that a SWAT team gets to chase after me for that? I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's really good use of your tax dollar, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it really, you know, I used to be one of these people, police are good people and they're there to protect our rights, but that's not protecting our rights. That's ridiculous, you know, and, you know, that's like brown shirt Nazi-like behavior from the police, you know. And if you're a police officer and you're involved, enforcement, and use it threatening people with guns for people not wearing masks, that's not okay, and you should resign your position, and you should have no place in the police department whatsoever, because it's just like the type of behavior that the Nazis practiced in the 1930s. And actually, I just want to shift to the next point on this. What's interesting about this is now there's a law in Arizona that you cannot videotape police officers.
Oh, seriously?
So you know, like
that doesn't trump the Constitution, which you're allowed to film in public. So whether it's a law or not, it still can go against the Constitution, which we have a freedom of press still. No laws, no amendments, no policy can trump the constitutional right that we have as we're able to film anything and anywhere in public.
Yeah, but the problem is the courts. You know, you're still relying on the courts to
not if we don't give them any credence.
Yeah, I don't give them any credence. Like, I'm an energy healer and I've dissolved all contracts, you know, from an energetic perspective on my field. Like, I no longer consider myself to be a part of the system. You know, to me, the courts have no authority, the police have no authority, the government has no authority. In the word, let's talk about the word government. To me, when people use the word government, they assume that the government has authority. To me, what people consider governments are just false authorities. And what does the word government mean? The word government means to control, govern. And then the other part of it is ment, you know, miente from Latin. You know, it means mind control. So, you know, that's all that government means is mind control. So my only government is in my own mind. I have a relationship with the divine, and I have a relationship with my own mind. But, you know, the government, you know, I don't do government anymore. I'm done with doing what most people. I'm my own government. I don't need anybody else telling me what to do or how to live my life. And you know, I am actually very optimistic we can make this work, because I think if you actually give people a chance to be mature and to figure out things, they can figure it out. It's interesting that we brought this topic up today, because I was in Arizona, one of my favorite states. It's interesting, Arizona's coming up a lot.
Would you like some more of this?
Sure, that would be wonderful.
Is it?
And so I was in Arizona, and I went to a Freedom Festival in Arizona where we were all just camping in the woods. And it was amazing because, you know, like, it's some of the most accepting people I've ever met in my life.
Did you want some more, Hunter?
I'm good.
And Arizona. And so in Arizona,
camping.
Accepting people.
Accepting people. And so right now, okay, my point again. So anyway, you know, there was I don't like guns at all, but, you know, people could bring a gun to the festival. The people in the NRA that liked guns, the libertarians that liked the guns, they could bring their guns, and they were practicing without in the woods. I don't endorse violence or owning a gun, but there were people like that, and then there were people that were like meditators, like, you know, encamped right next to each other. There was a member of the NRA from like Prescott, Arizona, encamped right next to a gay guy from Portland who had woken up. He was one of the most flamboyant people ever. He had all kinds of signs on his car that said things like "fuck Biden," "government sucks," and all that other things. And he would go into like conservative towns and talk to people about libertarianism. And he caught people very off guard because they thought he was like the most liberal person on the planet. And he would go in and he would like talk to all these people about like all these things. And he would talk about Have you ever heard of Larkin Rose?
It does sound familiar, like I might have heard of it.
He wrote a book called Government, the World's Most Dangerous Superstition. And so he had read Larkin Rose's book, and he would go in and he would talk to people about Larkin Rose. So I found him, I met him, I met this guy from the NRA, I met an amazing amazing yoga teacher. I met so many amazing people, and we all got along despite the fact that we were like ridiculously different.
That's awesome.
Ridiculously different people.
Because you came together for the same cause, and the same cause was freedom. And the reason you guys all came together was for freedom. So there was so many differences, but there wasn't really differences because we're all humans. We all deserve to be free. We all deserve that human right to be free. And that's cool.
Yeah. And the more people that step into their divine sovereignty and understand that, then we will see more and more, like we're all one. So it just takes more and more people that step into their power.
It's not always like you have to put in the inner work, and that's one thing that people in the freedom movement need to get better at. There are certain low vibration freedom people that definitely need to put in the inner work.
Well, we built a course on our website that helps people step into their inner work at the SDICinc.com. We have this one course that we just built called the
Love School.
It's in the Love School. It's called the Lessons of Love. And it helps people like redefine love in their life and learn how to utilize that as a tool and use it and how to love yourself and to love others and to love all. It's really a great thing that I think is going to be very helpful for the people to make that shift.
It's a simple course.
Step that step across that bridge.
As a teacher, I would be curious to see what you think and all the stuff that you've done to.
I'd love to give my feedback sometime. Maybe just for the listeners out there, you could just provide an example of maybe what one of the lessons is and plug that a little bit for them.
Really, it's about learning to love yourself, because that's the foundation for everything. If you don't have self-love, you cannot love anyone else except to the level that you've learned to love yourself, and that's the truth.
So the course starts out with like, what is love? What is the emotion of love? And all the different things about what love is and how love is. And then it goes into like the emotion of love and what the emotion of love is. And then it goes into how to use that love in yourself, how to love yourself with that love. And it goes into how to utilize that love, receive that love, and use it to yourself, and then how to send that love back out. Like it has the lessons of the self-hug. And how important that is once you understand. Once the understanding of love is input. And then it can be integrated into it, and then hugging the self is a good lesson on practicing every day, just working on loving yourself more, just by giving yourself a hug. And then as you do that, it helps break open your heart center more, that you can easily send that love back out easier. So now you're receiving and giving love, and it has some really good practice in that.
It's interesting you talk about that in this kind of gesture, because like, in my healings, I instruct my clients to go like this, so that they have a relationship with their heart, and then they reprogram their new beliefs into their system, where you know, I call up old beliefs and old imprints from their field, and then, you know, I coach them through installing new beliefs.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell that what you're doing is working because I've seen the shift in you.
Thank you.
You know, since we first met you till now, your whole energy and what you focus on is completely shifted. So what you're doing is working. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah.
And we are looking for other instructors on our website that want to help guide people that sign up with the program.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you'd be interested in, we can guide you towards our lessons of love. You can look into that, and we could always use more instructors and guides to help the people through this process that we have.
Sure, I'll take a look into it. I'll give it some consideration. I mean,
And people can sign up with a 1 hour video chat with you for the people for our instructors and guides. They can set it up so that people can select on the website that they want to meet with you. They can see your schedule and book a spot and have a direct meeting right with you.
Interesting.
It's something that we're working on and building
for
people. It's something we've been working on for years and years, and it's
finally
we're finding the right little tools and the right little paths to get in there and utilize the tools in a good way.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is, Rex?
No.
Avocados, honey, and cacao, and then I put like nuts, dates, and a little bit of. Isn't that
it's so lovely.
Yeah.
It's a raw cacao mousse.
I could really learn how to cook.
It's raw. It's uncooking. There's no cooking.
Yeah, I could really learn how to prepare food better. Okay, food preparation.
We have food preparation classes. Wednesday nights.
We have we have programs on our website that we're fine tuning. We're going to have our recipe book.
Teach people how to.
But then we do have Wednesdays down here. That we have Wednesday night.
Do you know Christy? She's got long blonde hair from Milwaukee. She's an attorney.
I don't remember her. I didn't. I wasn't very involved in the Milwaukee field. I did a lot of my healings on others. I've actually gotten the download that I'm supposed to do less ceremonies now. You know, I don't do as many ceremonies because I'm a dancer and I like to put the energy of dance back into my life. And I think, you know, it's great that the three of us are talking here today. Yeah, but at the same time, we also have to learn how to project our light out to other people and to bring our light into other situations. Because it's great that we all talk to each other, but ultimately we have to be able to talk to people who are not in the freedom movement, who are not in the raising consciousness movement, and are
take
not
our light to the dark.
They're not doing ayahuasca ceremonies all the time, because it can be a little bit of an echo chamber to be in those places, and we need to be able to talk to other people, to sharpen our ideas, to be able to communicate better. You know, it comes back to the point I was making about debates earlier. You know, like when we debate other people, it helps us, you know, sharpen our ideas. It helps us become more effective communicators and to more effectively communicate our ideas. So we have to know how to do it non-violently, because sometimes we get emotionally attached to our ideas. So, you know, that's something I've been working on and stuff. But we need to go take our light to other environments. So for me, I like the dancing. Some other people.
When do you go dancing?
Well, Mondays and Wednesdays is my class.
What time is that?
It's like at 8 o'clock.
8?
Yeah.
In the evening?
Yeah, in the evening. Yeah.
Would you be interested in ever doing that with me, David?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, good idea.
We should come with you because I love to dance, and I know David does.
We have our food class on Wednesday night.
Yeah, but it's at 4. We'll be done before 8.
Yeah, it's a lovely group of people. You do just have to set the intention, though, that you're not going to be affected by people who have taken the vaccine.
I'm not. I don't have any problem.
Yeah, That's good. I mean, I as an energy healer, I have to protect my field a little bit, but ultimately, you also have to be able to say, just because someone else has made a different medical decision and made a different choice, that doesn't mean that we just hide from them either.
No, yeah, I made that decision a long time ago. I said, I mean, some of my family members did. So it was just like, we're one. Yeah. And that however this shakes out, it shakes out, and whatever.
Because
what does it mean to you? You're an energy healer. What does that mean?
Well, it means that I can use my energy to help someone improve their energy field and to heal them, basically. And so what I can do is I can take negative energies from people and replace them with more positive energies.
Where do you take that negative energy to?
You just dissolve it into light. So, I transmute that negative energy and I dissolve it into the light. And I work on the energetic template. So we all have an energetic template. So, like, basically our physical forms are a reflection of our energetic template. So we all have an energetic body. You don't just have a physical body, but you also have an energetic body. And I think that's something that's a lot of people don't get, is they think this is just a physical house, or your body's just a physical body, or your body's just a physical body. You also have, your body has an energy field. You have an energy field as a living organism. This house has an energy field. Someone's dog has an energy field. Microsoft has an energy field. The United States has an energy field. Here where we are, this town where we all have an energy field. And all of these energy fields are interacting all the time.
Like an energy field as in like an aura.
Yeah. And so that's what people don't get. That's what people don't get about, medicine. Is they think that everything can be solved by going to the doctor and having their arm chopped off or something like that, or having an operation where, they might be better served by having this is not medical advice. Don't take my medical advice. Take your own advice. See your doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
But people might be better served if they hire an energy healer. It has to be done with discernment to help work on their field, and then maybe do a detox of some kind. So energy healing's not the be all end all. I can certainly help someone with their energy field. So maybe I have a problem with my shoulder. So my shoulder, I do energy healing in my shoulder, but I also have to receive massages. So we have to have a more holistic approach to medicine, and not one where everything is like, take this drug, have this operation. And this is not medical advice, but and what we've seen from the doctors for 2 years is, I don't think most doctors are that smart. They're very good at memorizing information. They're very good at reading information, and they know how to make their professor happy. They know how to make their high school teacher happy. They know how to deal with, like talking to a professor at Harvard Medical School. But just because you're a doctor does not mean that you know everything about healing. And I would like to make some more points about this, because we see, I think the Hippocratic Oath needs to be reformed, because it's always do no harm. That's the Hippocratic Oath. Think about that.
They haven't, that dropped out years ago. They stopped doing that. That's just like a fake thing. That's like saying that we're free, that we have freedoms.
Yeah, but let's look
it's an illusion.
Let's look at do no harm for a second. That's such a low bar. You know, that's an incredibly low bar.
It's actually pretty big. If you look at ahimsa and you try to do absolutely no harm in your life, you can see that it's actually impossible.
Yeah.
But it's ahimsa, the act of non-violence, of doing no harm.
Yeah.
And not doing a harm to anything and not doing harm to yourself. And the Hippocratic Oath, they dropped that out because they sold out. They became drug pushers at one point. The doctors gave up doing what they think is right for the person, and now they do what's right for their pocket.
Yeah, I know.
And they're forced to. They were forced to do this.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the symbol of the medical profession in the snake, that they use a snake as a symbol. I think it's an insult to snakes that they use that as a medical profession. People might not like snakes, but you know, I get the impression that the snakes would be insulted by the fact that the medical profession uses their symbol and then decides to lock down humanity. You know, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think the medical profession should be allowed to use snakes as their symbol, because they're a symbol of nature. They're not doing the highest good. And I think there are some snakes that are non-poisonous, and they're more respectful to people than the average doctor, who has told us that if I don't take their experimental drug, that I have to walk out of my profession. So I think it's ridiculous. I think the medical profession needs to learn some more respect and honor for other people. And I think doctors need to learn some boundaries. And if you're in the medical profession, there should also be boundaries around when you're talking to people outside the hospital. You know, I think you should never be asking people if they were vaccinated or not, because they actually have a law called HIPAA in the United States to medical privacy. And you know, from my perspective, asking someone if they've been vaccinated or not is a violation of HIPAA rights.
And so is also enforcing somebody to wear a mask. You tell someone I can't wear a mask, and they're like, why? It's none of your fucking business.
Yeah.
It could be that's a HIPAA violation.
It's a HIPAA violation.
But
yeah.
And then this coin right here has the eagle attacking the snake. It's got it in its claw and in its mouth. As in the snake is something bad.
Yeah.
But then it's in the medical thing. It's like, wait, what?
But I mean, so snakes are not my favorite animal, but I still don't think the medical profession should be allowed to use a snake as their symbol. I don't know what symbol they should use. Maybe they can use Voldemort as their symbol rather than snakes.
Or is what they could use.
Yeah.
So when I went to Mauritius, all the doctor's office, all the pharmacies in Mauritius, they look like the pot dispensaries here. They have a green cross.
Yeah.
All of them have a green cross. In California, the green cross meant you could buy medical cannabis.
Yeah.
But in Mauritius, they didn't have medical cannabis, but their pharmacies had the green cross. I thought that was funny. But you go into the pharmacies here, and they sell painkillers and Coca-Cola. Like, they're not for health. They don't even deserve to have that cross thing on it, that plus sign.
Most of the stuff that's sold in these things, I mean,
in the pharmacies anywhere.
I mean, I don't know why most people put this trust in this stuff. Maybe there's some stuff that works, I don't know, but from what I've seen over the past 2 years, these medical people have a tremendous amount to do if they want to restore trust with people. To restore trust with me, the price is going to be awful high. Just so you know, because they forced me out of my profession. I made the choice, but I don't think that teachers should be told that they have to take a vaccine just to work in a school. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think
an unproven vaccine when most of them 60 years to find out if they're going to do any harm.
Yeah.
It was an experimental, it wasn't even a vaccine, it was an experimental test subject that they couldn't even inject lab rats with it. It was so dangerous.
Yeah.
We were the human people became the lab rats. Like the government gifted all the people to the pharmacy and said, here's your lab rats.
Yeah, and it's funny, they even have TV shows called Lab Rats to condition people. I mean, you know, my former students, there was a TV show they wanted to watch. They were in middle school, and it was called Lab Rats. They used the TV to condition people to buy into all this.
When I was a kid, I learned that you could make a lot of money testing out experimental drugs and stuff. That they paid a lot of money for that. I was like, heck, I don't even need to go to school. I could just get a job and test out some crazy medicines because they pay good. Lab rat.
That's what they want to treat the world like. That we're supposed to be lab rats. You know, I do not consent to being a lab rat. Just for the record, I'm just saying publicly right now, I absolutely do not consent to it. I don't consent to their ridiculous things. I don't consent to government. I don't consent to the media telling me what to do or what to think. You know, I claim my sovereignty and my freedom because I deserve it.
Perfectly, and that's a really good note to kind of end on. We've been almost an hour or so, or we have been an hour. So I wanted to kind of shift it a little bit from the shit going bad to the shit going good. And so as we step into, as there is this system of control that is dissolving, that is falling down, that is no longer, it never worked, it never did us any good, it's not a broken system, it's a system that never worked. So as we all step into our own power, as we all step into our own hearts and become heart-centered, as we all step into our own love and our own freedom, as we step away from that kind of stuff, as we step out of those systems that don't work, as we step back from that, as we no longer vote for that with our money or anything, as we step away from that, that dissolves. That goes away, and we build the things we want to see. We build the future. We build towards the good and positive things. We put our money towards those. We put our vote towards those by saying, yes, freedom. Yes, true freedom. Yes, stepping back into that. And as we do the good shines and the good flourishes. And so instead of going and putting your money for a Coca-Cola, you're voting for more Coca-Cola. If you put that money towards an organic orange, you're getting more organic oranges.
Or cacao, you know, cacao. Or they have actually a special drink here in Mexico that's sold in some convenience stores called chaya, which is very good. Have you had that?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's very good. So chaya, kombucha.
Yeah, we're staying away from most things, like the most. We juice like all of our own juices now. We're getting more simple instead of buying other things.
Stepping away from the containers. And every juice that we could ever find had some sort of additive
or chemical or something.
And we didn't.
So now I just make all my own, you know. And we used to go out to eat. I mean, there's still some good places and amazing, but. Now that we're raw, we just have beautiful people over and share our food with them.
Yeah.
We don't even need to go out to eat.
That's wonderful. I mean, I like to support certain businesses, but I support that idea too. And since I live by myself, I enjoy meeting people and going out, so that's part of my culture. But everybody has their own kind of thing, and I like to support businesses that support freedom too. I circulate money to, I know the people who, there's one restaurant here where in this town where we live where the owner didn't allow his employees, didn't force his employees to wear masks.
What restaurant is that?
It's called Aussie's. And it doesn't have the best food, so you might not like it. But,
I probably wouldn't.
And there's a little bit of beer and stuff going on, but ultimately I still go there and I buy a glass of water and stuff just to
Support the people who supported sovereignty. Yeah,
support
awesome.
people who support sovereignty. So I think that's a key thing. Like, where's your dollar going?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We walked out of stores. They said, you can't be in here without a mask. And it's like, this is money that I have in my hand. I'm walking out with it. I didn't have to physically do that, but that's what they were doing. They were saying, your money is not good here. Because we stood up. We said, okay, if you're not going to let us in here, then we're not going to give you your, if you're not going to stand up for our freedoms, then we're taking out, we have the freedom to give our money somewhere else.
You have to start voting with your dollar. I mean, and I started doing this even when I was not a vegan, you know, and like when I was still making that transition for some people who are maybe still in this process or whatever, who are maybe not be vegan yet, but you know, instead of buying your beef from the grocery store, find somebody who's raising grass-fed beef. You know,
go see the cow and the guy who's growing the cows and buy milk from him and buy the meat from him. I shifted to rabbits before I stopped eating meat, and I grew my own rabbits. And I had to kill them and clean them. And it was gross and it was sad, and I don't eat meat anymore. Once you start like realizing that
having
animals
to do
are your
that,
family, and when you're actually killing your family to eat it, then you're like, wow, I can actually live off of not killing animals. It's been the whole propaganda that, you know,
you need protein.
You need meat for every year. Beef. It's what's for dinner.
You need your protein. How do you get your protein?
The dairy industry is another big one.
I know.
As well. So we have the meat industry, we have the dairy industry, and
both heavily subsidized by the government.
And heavily subsidized by the pharmaceutical companies too.
And all this like corn out west that's like genetically modified and stuff. So there are a lot of challenges, especially if you're in the U.S. trying to get good food.
My higher self told me just to quit eating corn a while ago.
It's unfortunate because it's actually kind of a sacred thing, kind of like in the Mayan tradition, you know, like, you know, I guess.
We went to the Itzium is the corn goddess. The restaurant, the vegan restaurant is the Itzium, and that's the corn goddess. And we got to know her really well. And she was like, what do you mean you don't want to eat corn anymore?
I know, I'm like, I can't have corn. No,
how could that even be possible?
I know.
But that's like the U.S. for you is just like
but it's not. Like, but it's here too. Because I thought there was a time when after I had that download from my higher self, I thought, well, maybe it's just in the United States, and maybe the corn in Mexico is different, and it's okay. And so I started eating whatever corn. I had tamales. I was having the chips and guacamole, and I had a corn baby. I got pregnant with a big old bloated belly, and I was like, honey, I know my body, I'm pregnant, I'm certain I am. And he was like, are you sure? You're sure? Like, yes, I think I'm pregnant. I even told a few friends. I was convinced, and it was a corn baby. It was from bloating and just being from corn.
And ultimately too, we can also start considering prana, and you know, start shifting to doing things like sun gazing and breath work and those kinds of things, because you know, those are also ways that we can nourish ourselves.
Sunbaths, we like sunbathing.
Yeah, we like to do 10-15 minutes every day on our rooftop naked.
Most of the days we got sunbathing, ocean swimming. There's so much that we could do. That's what I like to, when I studied breatharianism, I wasn't just going to straight up stop eating. I was still eating meat at that time. But what I learned from breatharianism is there's so many other ways to absorb and receive energy that we need. It doesn't have to only come from food. And so learning those other techniques gives us balance and power.
And I think we're going to shift to an age where we're not going to need as much oil, nuclear power, those kinds of things. I mean, they have free energy technologies out there. I don't know a ton about it, but I know Foster Gamble from the Thrive movement. He's an expert on free energy, and I guess there's been a lot of like hidden technologies. That,
Tartaria, the research Tartaria.
A lot of stuff that's been hidden for us not to know, so they could charge us.
Yeah, like energy should be free ultimately. Like,
some
water,
sure. Like ultimately, you can just feel energy like in a torch. If you just put your hands like this, I can feel energy just. I can feel energy just doing this.
Yep.
And so I think maybe someday we'll just be able to, maybe just send our energy into a power plant where you could just, have some kind of like, receptor. I could just say I'm channeling energy and put it right into my house. And
there's energy in the ether all over, and it's just, if you start researching Tartaria and how they did things, they use copper. David knows more about this than me. But
where you have the energy from the earth and the energy from the sky. So you build an antenna up, and it helps receive that energy from the difference. There's a difference between Mother Sky and Father Earth, that we are that heart center, that blood center. But as we did that, we put a wire from the earth into the flower pot, and from the flower pot up into the sky.
Yeah.
It helps pull that energy down, and the plants grow.
They get grown so much faster. David did that in one plant. He grounded
it's going big on YouTube and stuff. Electroculture.
He grounded the wire on the house and then wrapped it up on the papaya tree that we have growing on the roof, and the tomato plants in that one pot just sprouted up. I was like, what? I went up there the other day and I'm like, what happened? These tomato plants just grew faster than any of the other ones in the other pots, because he put that copper wire in there and the way he grounded it and everything. It really works, obviously.
And so these old buildings, they used to do that. They were all intricate and ornate, and they had all these metal pieces on top of them. They actually had balls of mercury in these tower hands, and they had all these spikes all over them, and they destroyed that and made them look more simple, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
But they had it so that the buildings could receive the energy, and the bricks can store energy. And the way they made the pyramids were that when they were flooded, the pressure of the different rocks, they made the inside of Giza is built a certain way out of this granite and these different set of rocks, these different types. And when the water pressure was there, it pushes and it makes energy. It's that piezoelectric energy that we actually have in our third eye. When you put pressure on your third eye, it's piezoelectric. So it's like quartz crystal is piezoelectric. The reason why they put quartz crystal in a watch was because they put it under pressure, and it puts off energy. It keeps the watch in perfect timing, because when you put pressure on a quartz rock, it does perfect timing. Remember at God's Eye, when we took the quartz crystal and we rubbed it on the quartz crystal? God's Eye is this huge quartz crystal in Big Bear Lake, California. And you go like this, and the crystal lights up inside.
Wow.
And there's so much of that technology that's been held back. I've seen people making electricity out of water. I've seen people making electricity out of an alternator and a motor, where the motor's spinning the alternator's producing power for the motor, and they're running power off of it. There's ways, one of them called a rodent coil, where you wrap copper in a certain pattern, in a certain way around, make a torus out of copper, and you put 12 volts to that. It produces energy inside of 100 volts or something like that. There's some mathematical equation, and any and all of that technology was wiped out at a certain point, because the parasites want us to feel that we are in lack and feel that we have to be slaves to work our asses off.
It's the slave system.
So they make the money.
Yeah.
What is money? It's just some fucking number that somebody made up.
We'll just stay on the subject for money. People always say money doesn't grow on trees, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, because
just bought a bunch of avocados.
What's money made out of? Money is made out of paper. So the idea that money doesn't grow on trees is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's a straight up lie, right?
In my life.
It does grow on trees, actually.
And the Federal Reserve prints more money every day. More money is created by banks through fractionally reserve banking. out of thin air.
Yeah.
You know, more gold could be mined, more cryptos are created all the time. So money is an abundant resource. So I think that's one point that I just wanted to make while we were on that topic.
Yes.
And one of the points that I would just ask the two of you is there was the topic of ether mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what is ether? Maybe we can explain that for the audience.
Yes, I would love to.
David, please.
Ether is infinite potential. I used to call it the nothingness. The space between you and me, between my nose and your nose, appears to be nothingness. But it is absolute everythingness. It is infinite potential. It is the field. It is what the field is. It is what everything is and everything is out of. It's where light is hiding in that field between you and I. Light is manifest out of that. Everything is manifest out of the ether. Everything is manifest. Light is manifest out of electricity. The copper wire manifests the electricity out of the ether. The electrical generator it has an arc form that it sends the electricity this way and it spins this way, and it manifests that infinite energy that's in the ether into electricity, into the manifest. That's how we have most of our power. It's not coal. Coal powers the power plant, but really all that does is it spins this inner piece around this outer field, and that together manifests the energy that's already there in the ether. Ether is infinite potential is the easiest way to say it. It is everything and nothing, and it is everywhere, and we are manifest out of that.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen the movie Everything and Nothing? Is that what it's called? Something like that?
No, I haven't. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about it?
Everywhere, all the time, or something
everything,
like
everywhere,
that?
all the
I don't
time.
know.
Yeah, it basically, it's kind of like this showing, you know how some movies like The Matrix show you.
It's a freaky, funny Matrix spy thriller type movie.
Yeah, but if someone is not awakened, they'll probably just go, "That's fucking weird. I don't
Everything,
get it."
everywhere, all at the same time.
Yeah,
It's like 3 different chapters.
But it's showing how like any decision you make can shift
into a different
into
reality.
a different reality. You know, because time is not linear, as we know. It's like everything's happening in the now moment, and there are all these different timelines and things that, and so
they would tap in. This lady would tap into her other reality where she didn't marry her husband, but she learned kung fu, and then she would learn. She was guided to learn to tap into that kung fu life and use it in her life right there. And she had, in the end, connected to all of her selves in all the dimensions to be everything.
Yeah.
It's super powerful, funny, amazing movie. It was totally worth the $20 or whatever that we paid to watch it, or did we buy it?
No, we
Maybe
bought
can still
it.
see
Yeah,
I want to watch it again. I've seen it like 3 times. I watched it on the airport on the way to Dubai. On the airplane on the way to Dubai.
Yeah.
And then I watched it. I didn't get to see the whole thing. And then it wasn't on the next airplane to Mauritius.
Yeah.
But on the airplane from Paris back to Salt Lake City, I got to watch the whole thing. I got to see the other half. Yeah, it was a good one. But talking about that infinite dimensions and so, how was my definition of ether compared to what you've learned?
I honestly am not like a physicist. You know, I was not a person that was super good at physics, so it's kind of difficult to explain. It's kind of like, I think it's like when you're talking about everything, the force that creates everything, but it's one of the 5 creational elements. So we have air, water, earth, fire, and ether. And you know, ether is something that I'm not like, I never really liked science, so I mean, but it was basically in Einsteinian physics, you know, was something I was neglected Basically,
that's good because Einstein means one stone. He took everything that he got from André Poincaré.
Yeah, so it's not a concept that I
from somebody else.
I have an understanding of it, but I don't necessarily think I'm the best person to explain this concept of ether. But I guess I would compare it to the cryptocurrency Ethereum. You know, I don't know how much you know about Ethereum.
Yeah, I know.
But they're considered the number 2 cryptocurrency, and
I have
Ethereum is.
I had some.
Ethereum is basically a giant computer. So a bunch of cryptocurrencies. There are all kinds of cryptocurrencies that are actually built on top of Ethereum. So Ethereum is basically like a giant world computer. I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend Ethereum because I'm into privacy, and Ethereum isn't private, and that's the problem with Ethereum is it's, you know, not a private cryptocurrency. And the other thing about Ethereum is that it has very high, they charge you a very high fee to send Ethereum and to sell Ethereum and that kind of thing. So I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Ethereum, but you know, I would compare it to that. It's just like Ethereum's like a giant computer. Like Ether is just like kind of like everything out there.
Like a computer that holds the programs.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I would say. And then there was something else I wanted to mention from the conversation, but I forgot. It was one other point I want to make.
The ether as there being 2 kinds of ether. There is the element, the ether, but then there's the ether that like Nikola Tesla talked about. And I think the ether, I haven't studied that much of that either, but the ether of the element is maybe kind of like plasma or something. Like there's fire, or it's kind of like spirit or something. But then there's ether, which is like the field of everything. In a way, there's like there are 2. I think they're actually 2 different subjects of the 5 elements, and ether being one of them. I think that ether is different than ether. I don't know if they're spelled different or what, but somewhere there's some sort of a separation, because fire comes out of ether. And how did it go? The Vedas said it in a really cool way, like there was air, and then there was air and fire made water, and fire and water made earth, or something like that, like the way the elements progressed. And I don't know where ether comes into play with that. I don't know if that ether element is different than the theory of ether that Nikola Tesla was talking about. I don't know if it's the same thing or if they're different. I haven't studied that, but I know ether from my studies of Nikola Tesla and what he knew of ether. And then I've found it in a lot of these esoteric books that I've read, from Madame Blavatsky to it's also mentioned in a way in the Vedas,
okay,
ancient India.
Can you explain Madame Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, and the Anthroposophist movement to our audience a little bit?
I don't really know Rudolf Steiner.
I'm going to exit stage left and work on my book.
Okay.
So I'll leave you guys to talk about this stuff, because I don't really have much to chime in.
Madame Blavatsky, I was introduced through, I think it was the book The Secret Doctrine. One of my guitar teacher was really he taught me guitar opposite as any other teacher would. Most teachers are like, okay, A, B, C, D, like notes. But he taught me music is a frequency and a wave, and has harmonics that vibrates. And he taught me the elements of it, like taught me the magic of it, and then went into like, so I learned music backwards in a way. Instead of like you learn everything and then go into the magic of it. I learned the magic of it and then learned everything. And he recommended The Secret Doctrine. And The Secret Doctrine is talks about the Book of Daizan. And the Book of Daizan, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, was pretty much an ancient Tibetan book that talks about the cosmos, the creation of the cosmos, how one became everything, pretty much. How one became two, and two became three, and three became everything. And I've heard that said in a bunch of different ways too. So Madame Blavatsky was one of those ones, maybe before World War II, maybe in the early 1900s, that studied esoteric, I guess. That
the Theosophy movement,
and
the Theosophists.
And studied all of that stuff. The book is very thick, as in it's thick physically.
Yeah.
And it's also thick as in, like, I would read a few pages and then wait a while and let that sit.
Yeah.
The Bhagavad Gita is a thick book also.
Yeah.
You want to read a few paragraphs and take a week off to let it integrate.
I know. I haven't read that one by Blavatsky, but the one I have read is called Isis Unveiled.
Yes, I had that book. That book is super thick.
Yeah, I mean, I somehow managed to read like 50 to 100 pages in a day.
Wow.
And take notes. You know, so one of my friends, I mean, I'm not into masonry and whatever, but there's like one of my friends who knows the Masons allowed me to, told me I could go study in the Masonic library in Texas, and so they allowed me to just read there. They were very welcoming, actually. They allowed me to take out the book and to read Isis Unveiled for a while.
Wow.
So it was, they were welcoming, and stuff, and I just read that. But it was like, a lot of it was like Christianity sucks, which, I kind of knew that. There was like, there was a certain thing I learned there that was useful. It's in my notes somewhere. I don't know if I still have those notes or whatever, but it was interesting. She was basically, I think a lot of people, they have a hard time getting into spirituality. So like, Theosophy is basically for intellectual people finding the way to getting into spirituality. Like what Theosophy is,
like
basically.
Blavatsky takes like the simple and like the one line of Book of Zizan, like one sentence, and breaks that open into 5 pages of information to explain each and every word in a scientific and in so many different detailed way, because it's simple but it's simplex. So it's complex to explain the simple. It's on a whole other level, right?
Yeah, it was basically for like 19th century, late 19th century American and European intellectuals. Their way of getting into spirituality is basically what Theosophy was. And so Rudolf Steiner was, part of the Theosophist movement for a while, but kind of broke up into the what was called the Anthroposophist movement in Germany. And he gives a lot of talks too on spirituality and has a lot of books on spirituality, kind of like early 20th century. The thing about Steiner is you really have to be in the right frame to be reading him or listening. So I think,
or it can just go.
Yeah, it can go so far, or it can go so far over your head that it's hard to digest. So I think for the average person, going and studying Blavatsky and studying Steiner might not be worth their time. I don't want to impose a limiting belief on anybody.
I had to understand, I had to take breaks from it and go understand some other stuff. I had to study some of Faraday's lectures on electricity, which I had to have a certain amount of mindset to even understand that as an electrician, to understand what he did. And then I had to go back to Blavatsky, and then I had to go back, and I had to go back and forth. It's like the one sentence that she turns into 5 pages. You need 5 pages to explain one of the sentences that she explained of the one sentence of the 5 pages of the one sentence. So I have that book, those 2 books, and you're welcome to them if you would like.
Yeah, thank you.
There's one section that I found the most amazing in it. There's one page, and it connects the ether with the Fohat with love.
Yeah.
And so it proved to me that I've been searching everywhere and finding everywhere and knowing that the infinite potential is love. That everything is magnetism, which is love, which is infinite potential, which is the ether, which is Foha.
Yeah.
And so she explained it in one page, and then I'm like, I found it! Oh my God!
Yeah.
And the second book, I didn't read through the whole thing. I went through the table of contents and picked out what I wanted to read in it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of past trying to find all of that knowledge in a book. Now I'm at the point of where I want to be in my life as much as I can in my life here and mindfully in my space to just experience my experience.
Yeah, that's...
And learn from that right here, right now. That's where I'm at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel I am, too, in a lot of ways. And so I think for the average person, I think it's important to learn how to trust the wisdom, you know, or just listen to the wisdom. You know, I have a friend who plays a song at sacred medicine ceremonies where she's like, just listen to the wisdom. So like in shamanism, people learn how to trust their inner wisdom. So, you know, not everybody needs to read Steiner, not everybody needs to read Blavatsky. I mean, it can be fun if you're one of these people who's like a super intellectual to read Steiner or Blavatsky if you're super intellectual. And Steiner knows all kinds of things about all different things, so he's very interesting to read if you're in the right frame of mind for it. But I'm like one of these people, I have to be in the mood where I'm like in my Harvard mode, where I want to go read a book at the Harvard Library or something.
And it takes different seasons of our life too. Like it may be in winter that I'm ready to read that. Yeah. Now in summer I'm not ready to read that. I'm done reading that kind of stuff. Yeah. Maybe like in spring I might want to go dance instead, or just something different. Our lives have the seasons in it. Yeah. So I would say just for the average person, I think doing the meditation is key. Yeah. So I found a lovely guided meditation channel where you have, you know, guided meditation with affirmations at the end, and I think that's very powerful to combine the two, because the more time you spend imagining it and affirming it, the more that creates your reality. So I think for the average person, that's a much better way to connect with things than reading Steiner. And I'm fine with reading Steiner. I mean, like if you want to listen to someone who knows a lot about Steiner, I'd recommend the Alpha Vedic podcast. You know, and that's what's great about it. There is that, like, nature is super simple, but it's simplex, so it's very complex to explain it. But these people have explained it in its complexity, and then there's people that have understood what they were talking about, and now they can share it in a simpler way for everybody to understand. So you don't have to read Blavatsky, but you can learn from somebody who read Blavatsky and can simplify it to not be 700 pages. Simplify the meaning of it in a few sentences. Yeah. And the other thing, take that in meditation. And the other thing we see now, and I notice this in myself too, I like reading books, and I think there's a social trend is people don't enjoy reading as much as they used to. Yeah, some of them it's like and I used to teach teenagers in high school. To get you know, I read a ton of books as a kid. I was an avid reader as a kid. But from what I see the average person doing now and the way kids are growing up, they don't read as much. People don't read as much. So I think for, you know, your audience, I think it's really important just to get in the meditation, you know, and to really emphasize that, because, you know, I have a book, you have a book, you know, a lot of people have books, you know, and I think what's happening is we're going from more book-based culture to a more YouTube video chat type culture. There's a transition being made. It's been going on for a while, and you know, people listen to are more willing to listen to people talking on a podcast than they are to read a book. To read a book for 2 hours. So
I would just say for people to get into meditation and to really emphasize that kind of the art of being centered and to center themselves, because if you can center yourself, and I'm not necessarily the best example of this, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. When you put yourself in the right vibration, it doesn't matter what the government's doing, it doesn't matter what your family's doing, it doesn't matter what the people in the mask in the supermarket are doing, it just matters what you're doing and you being centered, and that's it.
Being here now, being mindful of what you're doing, of what you're listening to and what you're doing, and not getting stuck in the past, not getting stuck in the future, and just being. And meditation can help people just be, and help people be mindful by having a guided meditation.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily call it meditation. I don't necessarily, a lot of what people call meditation, a lot of the things that people put out there, and they tell people that they need to meditate and they need to sit there and not think of anything, and you can't think of nothing, because once you think of nothing, it becomes something. You can't do nothing because you're always doing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, they're trying to think of nothing, and they feel like they're failing trying to meditate because of what they're told to meditate means. So they can't meditate because they think that they need to think of nothing, and you can't think of nothing, because once you think of nothing, it becomes something. It's an impossible task. But a guided meditation of what you're talking about is a way that guides people towards a listening and a receiving of subliminal programming.
Yeah, and it's really helpful if you find the right meditation channel, and you
need to have faith in it, and you need to know who's putting it on and why. You need to make sure they're not doing it for money, because I see a lot of these manifestors of money, and you pay them money, and if you listen to one of their meditations that they say will make it so you have money, then they're not going to get paid anymore. And if you listen to them, I've listened to them, and there's one word in there that is counterproductive. They're saying all these things about how you have money, but then there's something that they slip in about not having money. So you're always not having money, because then you can pay them more money to have a meditation that helps you find money. So you got to watch out for what the people's intentions are for, what their intentions are in having the meditation for you. That's what I think is super important, because it is all subliminal messaging. So what truly are you subliminally inputting into yourself? Do you trust it? Is it fully for your highest good? So learning to ask yourself, is this for my highest good? Learning to get answers from yourself is super empowering. Like with the pendulum. Learning to say, okay, is this meditation for my highest? And getting an answer that you can trust, rather than just jumping on any meditation bandwagon. I'm sure there's thousands of dollars you can spend on meditations.
Well, you don't need to.
I know, but I'm sure that there are.
You can go to YouTube, has so many guided meditations. Like once you find the right meditation channel on YouTube, and they're all free.
But discernment's still good though, because they could be for free, but they're still wanting you to sign up for their programs, and with their real goal for doing it might be the program. So discernment is very worthy.
And at the same time, there's nothing necessarily wrong with building a business either. Like if they want to offer a few free products, and then you could go to their course or whatever, that's fine. We can't just say it's bad to be desiring of money. Money is a wonderful tool that can help people, and spiritual people deserve to be paid too. People deserve to be paid. I'm a person that believes that if you serve medicine, you deserve to be paid. If you're a teacher, you deserve to be paid.
Oh yeah.
If you're walking the path of service to others, you deserve to be paid. So I think.
But what I was just trying to say is that some of the people are not in it for the service, except for the service of themselves getting paid. There is the service in getting paid, but then there's the service to just getting paid for yourself. So it's good to have discernment of what you're listening to and why they made that free.
Well, I'm just a person that believes that people deserve to be paid for the services that they provide for others. That's the way I look at it, because you look at someone like Lionel Messi, this Argentinian soccer player. He gets paid millions of dollars to kick around a soccer ball. I mean, so if someone's building a meditation channel, like I think they deserve to be paid too. I mean, I think teachers deserve to be paid well. I don't know about doctors right now. I think doctors that maybe are in the service, they may deserve to be paid. But these doctors that are locking down the world, they do not deserve to be paid so well for bringing misery onto other people's lives. But let's get back to whatever point you want to make, back to the positive.
Yeah, just positivity for sure. Just little discernment's good on what you're, and even courses that you want to buy, or if you want to donate towards the person who's making the meditation videos, to see where it's going. It's like when you give money to the poor and the people that are taking that money are fat, and the people are still poor. It's about like voting with your dollar, making sure your dollar is going in the right place. And definitely, if you find a good meditation producer, it's really good to give them. If you're just downloading free music and enjoying the music, but not giving anything back to the creator that created the music, it's not that great. It's good to have that balance. They're giving you their music, then you should give them what they deserve. Everybody has, like, there's the working for money. People need money. It takes money to run. What they used to always say at the sweat lodge that I went to for all those years, nobody had to pay for the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
But they would say, it takes money to run a railroad, and they'd have a jar that you could put money in.
Yeah.
And people would donate, and they do that after the sweat lodge while we were eating the feast and having the feast in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so it was a free ceremony, but it does take money to run a railroad.
There's people's time and energy as well,
and that's worth money.
It does take a lot of energy to hold space for people too.
Yeah.
That takes energy. So, I think people should be given back to that are walking the path of service to others. And getting to your point, there needs to be a lot of discernment with who you choose as a spiritual teacher, who you do energy healings with, which meditation channel you use. It's all about discernment. One of the basics of spirituality is discernment. What is discernment? Discernment is knowing the difference between right and wrong, the difference between good and evil, the difference between false prophets and real ones, false authorities and real ones, the difference between truth and falsehood. And it's also about knowing that evil manifests under the guise of good. So we go back to, like these doctors over the past 2 years, now this vaccine experimental drug is good for you, right? And so it's about discernment is about recognizing that, evil isn't someone that's in a devil costume chasing you around town. That's not what discernment is. Discernment is being able to see through a person who might be trying to scam you.
And some of those videos on YouTube may have the sound that sounds like it's perfectly good, but then they have this sound in the background that's playing that they know is actually doing the opposite of what their video is doing. It's very important to be
There's certain channels that are kind of like that, but you have to, sometimes people also have to learn their own lessons about this. Some people, I can tell someone this channel's good, this channel's not, but sometimes people also have their own process to learning that and learning about which people to listen to, which people not to listen to. But it's very important. Discernment is the basic of spirituality. There are other basics, but it's one of the basics. It's one of the most important things. Knowing who to trust, knowing who to listen to, and that's one of the, comes back to one of the laws of manifestation. Who do you listen to? And who do you put your focus Who do you put your focus on?
And what I've learned on most of through my path at this point now is, now that I've cleaned myself up by not eating meat and not eating things that cause parasites and bacteria, bad bacterias, I no longer have those voices in my gut telling me to eat more meat.
Yeah.
Because I've cleaned those out with a special process that we go through.
Yeah.
And so now I can trust my inner self. I think the thing that we could practice the most and learning the most is to trust ourselves and to trust our own word and to have conversations with ourselves and be able to trust ourselves, knowing that it's just ourselves. Once we clean and clear out the parasites, then we can talk to just ourselves without having other voices in it. And then we can ask the questions to ourselves. Our higher self always has us in the highest, wants the best for us.
Yeah.
And so as we learn to talk to ourselves, we can learn to trust that self. And if we can trust that self, that can guide us to what else we can trust. That can give us our core of trust in ourselves. Can give us, we have that core of trust, and then we can find out if the other things are trustworthy, because we have that inner voice that we all have, that we should all listen to. But if you're still eating meat, then some of those parasites are the voices that you may be listening to, and they usually want more French fries, and they usually want more meat.
Well, everyone has their own journey on this. I mean, I certainly know that, I'm one of these people that I believe in veganism and vegetarianism, but I also understand where people who are coming from, who are maybe still on this path of evolving, because, I've been there myself. So I try to show compassion and, respect their decision. Not that I respect any animal cruelty, but I realize that humanity has also been eating meat for thousands of years, and that this is going to take some evolution for people, to understand why it's important not to eat meat. And it has to be done in a way where that people feels it respects and honors them. So it kind of feels like it's going to happen one way or the other. There's the so-called elites, the parasites, who want everybody to eat bugs. Like the Klaus Schwab. Or there's you and I. So there's two paths that people can come to not eating meat, and it's like how you want to get there, basically. But I think it's good to not eat meat, because we look at cows, for example, and I used to love eating beef. And one of the places where I have done ceremonies, there's a lot of cows nearby, and they eat the sprouts of the kapomo trees, and the kapomo trees produce special things that can be a coffee substitute that's very good for you.
It's not acidic like coffee.
So we have to kind of look at, when we have a lot of energy being pumped into beef, what's the opportunity cost for that? Because there's an opportunity cost. We get back to economics. What's the opportunity cost for all the meat?
A lot of water is used for the beef industry. And there's a lot of suffering in it too. And so a lot of people, I think suffering comes from suffering. So if you ingest suffering, you get suffering. And I think the biggest key to it all is self-love. I think what it all does is goes back to self-love. Once you realize that your body is your temple, and once you realize that you are God, and once you realize how you can love yourself, you don't accept Coca-Cola in your body anymore. You're not going to go throw Coca acid in your temple. You're not going to go into your temple, your church that is your body, and throw acid in it. And so our lessons of love really expresses that lesson to people, to teach them that their body is their temple. And when you have that self-love, then you don't want to harm. You don't want to harm things, because you know that harming things harms yourself.
And And the thing is, like in a place like Mexico, they have all kinds of good food, like the jackfruit, which is one of the most nutritious foods you can eat. And then even when I was visiting my friend in California, you know, he had a grocery store where he could buy a jackfruit, you know, right in his town in Northern California.
Nice. We only found it in the can at Trader Joe's, but that's cool.
So like, you know, the opportunity to eat well is out there if people desire it, but it's one of these things you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink from it. So, you know,
that's the most important thing is the self-love, because then they have that decision. Once you teach somebody self-love and they understand it, then it's easier.
Yeah.
You know, then they understand, they realize what they've been doing to themselves, and they don't want to hurt themselves anymore. I think the main thing, the main lesson is love, and that's what's so great about our Lessons of Love course, because it walks people through that understanding. And so speaking about that, I got more work to do on that stuff and some other things, so
okay,
I think it's a good time
to wrap it up.
Yeah, to wrap it up.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on again, and I appreciate you so much, and I hope this conversation has been helpful for your audience
and for me myself too.
And bringing some more enlightenment to the world. I mean, my personal values are peace, love, freedom, truth, and enlightenment. So I hope this has been an enlightening conversation for you.
Yeah, beautiful. For me, it has been amazingly, and I'm glad that we could share this way and do this again. And I look forward to doing it again sometime. Comment, say hello, check out our website, Dr. Rex. Leave some comments for him too if you'd like. Any questions you'd like to ask anytime. Much love. Thanks, love.
Thank you. Come so.